you heard a lot from Avi about kind of where we're going and what our strategy is, but I kind of want to look back over what's happened over the last 6 or 7 months since we last spoke with you at this leader conference last fall. So in that time, 30 new apps have gone live on apps.com, and we are so excited to have so many new members of part of what we call Team Intuit apps, and very happy to have you on the platform and finding new customers together. But I also want to talk to you a little bit about other things have been going on in IPP in that time. So a few months ago, if you follow us on the blog or on Twitter, you would have seen we released a new reports API on the QBO platform that allows you to create very powerful reports on a variety of different entities that are available on the platform. And I encourage you to check out the documentation to learn more about that. We also added new entities themselves in the terms of budget, refund receipt, tax agency, and tax service. And the documentation for these is either live or about to go live on the platform as well for these new entities, allowing you to build even greater apps on our QBO platform. Avi talked a lot about where we're going with the publishing process, and we've already put some changes in place. For example, if you want to privately publish or go live as what we call a Connect to QuickBooks application, you can go live without going through the tech or security review process, start doing betas with your customers, start getting your application out there. And then once you've gotten all the features working, you've gotten that early beta feedback, you can then go through that review process to get listed on apps.com and put together a larger marketing plan to get your app out in front of more customers. And we've already gotten a lot of really great feedback on that. We've been revising the technical review criteria to get rid of some of the obsolete requirements that haven't followed us as we've moved into Harmony, and to make that easier for you as well. And so as Avi said, we're going to be iterating on this a lot more in the coming months to reduce any inefficiencies in the process, but we're already making great strides according to feedback that we've gotten from you. And we now have a new connections dashboard that you can see when you're managing your app on the IPP portal. You can see how many connections you have, where they're coming from, how they're changing over time, to give you better insight into the performance of your application on the platform. So we hope you're finding those new features very valuable. And if you have in-depth questions on the new APIs, the new entities, the technical team will be happy to answer those for you. The other thing we're reminding everyone is we've had a number of migrations going on over the last few months. So those of you who may have completed the migration from the older QBO SDK to QBO API v3, we're glad that you've completed that migration and now have the ability to go onto apps.com. Those of you who are still on the v2 API need to finish that migration soon, migrate to v3. That's the only way you're going to reach a global audience. And eventually the v2 API will go through the shutdown period. So on QBO, you need to get to the v3 API. I want to talk to you a little bit about what we're doing in the global space with QuickBooks and applications. So you don't just have an opportunity to sell your applications and make them available to customers in the US market, but we have 4 markets outside the US where Intuit has a heavy focus on acquiring new subscribers and would allow you to do the same. So we have the UK market, India, Australia, and Canada, and we're seeing a lot of growth in all of these markets. And so if you'd like to go live in these markets, there are some things you might want to consider before doing so. How do you handle the global tax model? How do you handle global currency? Is your application all set up to handle all of those? How do you handle international character sets? Many of you have already taken things like this into account, but it's always something you want to double check before going live. And some of you I know are larger, but some of you are also smaller and medium businesses, just like the small businesses you're trying to serve. And so how are you going to do customer support for someone halfway around the world? We love that many of you take customer support so seriously and do such an excellent job. And I know you want to deliver that same service wherever you pick up a new customer, so you want to keep that in mind. And then when you're ready to go live, can you do pricing in local currency? Can you have a landing page on your site that makes sense for those global customers? So someone coming from the UK sees a price in pounds, not dollars, something that makes sense to them. Once you are ready to go live, you can go back through a marketing review with the teams in the local regions. And this isn't meant as a gate, but it is meant to familiarize the local teams in those countries with your application. Most of the country pages have these static marketing pages where they list out the apps that are available. Some of them also have an in-product apps tab as well where they can market your app. And so it gives them a lot of familiarity with your app and figuring out how to approach the joint customers in their market. We've already had a number of developers start to go through this process and start to get exposed to these new countries and new customers, and we're really excited. I want to talk for a little bit about what's going on with QuickBooks Desktop. I know from the questions that were asked that there's still a lot of interest in this. As we announced last fall, the QuickBooks Desktop API, the REST-based API, is closed to new developers. Those of you that are grandfathered in, we are adding one new entity later this year, journal entry, which I think many of you will find valuable. And there are some bug fixes, but they're not going to be done for all bugs. Like if you've reported a bug for which there's a workaround, assume that bug is not going to get fixed. We're really only investing in bug fixes for critical bugs and prioritizing them as we go. On the SDK side, if you want to pursue that desktop integration and have the resources to split your teams between desktop and online, you can do so with the QBXML SDK. Obviously, we encourage you to focus on online because that's where everything is growing. There will be updates to the SDK that happen in line with the yearly QuickBooks Desktop releases themselves. But again, very few features are going to be added to the SDK over time, right? It stays in sync with the desktop releases. It's not a huge area of investment. Because again, we are migrating the customer base to the online world. That's happening faster and faster. The number of new QBO subscribers is growing, and that's where we're encouraging everyone to focus their efforts and mirror what we're doing inside of Intuit as well. So David is going to do a services exercise with us now. One note of housekeeping as he comes up is I did get a question of whether or not the slides are going to be posted online, and they will. If you look at the program, there's a short link in there that later tonight or tomorrow when we get the slides posted, you'll be able to find them online.